What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Right here we have another vintage iPad review. So I have other iPads too, as well as the 2nd gen and 3rd gen iPads, but right now we're just going to deal with these two iPads, the one that started it all and the very last one with the similar traditional design. So right here, this is an original case from Apple. It's a genuine Apple iPad iPad 1st generation case. I have an iPad Air 4th generation as my daily driver. So anyway, it's a type of suede material is what it is. And then it just slides in through there. So we'll get this guy out of here. Put you down for a second. So right here is our 1st generation iPad. And right here is our 9th generation iPad. So we have the 1st and 9th generation. I'm basically going to do a quick little comparison between these two and how far we've come for iPads. So we'll go and get this one out of here too. All right, well, here we are. As you can see, even me putting this one on the very thinnest side of the case and comparing them, you could just see how much thicker the original iPad is. You can see it's also like at a beveled edge at the in the back. It's kind of like it has a bubble. But look how far we have come. Here you get 2 speaker ports at the bottom as well as a lightning port. Here we have that 30-pin connector everyone loved with the little 3 speakers there. Probably just 1 speaker that has audio coming out of all holes right there. Still have our traditional home button, of course, as well as this one, but this one features Touch ID. So looking at these devices a little closer, you just see how much thicker this iPad is. How it's basically like a modern iPad today, except without the beveled back, the bubbled back. Have the plastic volume buttons and mute switch right there. And then at the top, we just have the power button. Now, I got this iPad about a year ago. It took me a while to find one that's in pristine condition. So this isn't the cellular one, because the cellular one had a black plastic notch up top and the back. Not really much else to say about design, other than the fact that this one is so much thinner, as you can see. This is the very last iPad that Apple released with, if I can get it to focus, basically the very last iPad that Apple released as far as what this traditional design goes. You know, now they've resorted to the more modern iPad, like this iPad Air, except it's a little smaller. It might be the same size as the iPad Air, but what's different about it is it still doesn't support the Apple Pencil 2nd gen. It still supports the 1st gen. So now you have to buy an adapter to use it, to plug it into a lightning port. It's a lightning port converter to USB-C. So yeah, not really a big fan with that. I really don't like the 10th generation iPad, mainly because they could have done so much more with it, and they chose not to. They chose to keep it a budget iPad, yet they're still charging full price, more than what this one went for. They're charging like $429 or something opposed to the 329 iPad 9th gen. But anyway, here we have the 1st gen, and of course the 9th generation. I keep getting mixed up. So yeah, this is what we result to. Gotta miss that classic home screen. And this is what we're resulted in now. So yeah, so much different, so much better, in my opinion, on the older operating systems. Look how much detail there were opposed to this. As you can see, nothing really fancy about it, just kind of a bunch of buttons on a piece of glass. Here, at least, they kind of look like they were floating. They had more of a visual effect to them. They had an actual dock. As you can see, the old iPad reflects everything, so it's a lot harder opposed to this one. It's a lot brighter, but doing the best I can with that. But as you can see, really cool dock. Used to lift up. You have these open applications down here. It's how we used to clear them. You have to tap them. You have to tap them, and the little minus there, and clear them like that. Opposed to the simple, you know, flinging them up like that and closing them. Even with newsstand, it would break up the page. Break it up like that. They used to have so many cool little animations with maps too. You used to be able to fling it, see? Move it around. Go back. There we go. But yeah, so much better opposed to really this plain generic operating system. I mean, yeah, it's still nice opposed to like an Android or something like that, but you know, it really modernized the whole thing, the whole visual effect. I mean, yeah, Apple has come a long way in their iPad lineup. I mean, this is what everyone started off with. Really thick iPad, no front-facing camera, no rear-facing camera, and really that's it. You could email, watch videos, download movies with iTunes, play music. You'd have to buy music back then. I mean, it was, you know, it was definitely a new wave of technology when Steve Jobs released this back in 2010. So really a big difference. I mean, look how thick these bezels are. They're probably almost double the size of the 9th generation. The bottoms, I think, are still pretty much the same, give or take. They do look pretty similar. Maybe a little bigger over here, but not by much. Screens have definitely come a long way. With the iPad Airs, the screen is all laminated, so it doesn't look, there's not like a gap between the bezel and the actual screen. Here, as you can kind of see, there's a little gap over here. You can see right there that it's not visually attached to the digitizer, the bezel. So yeah, and you can even clearly see it there, how much of a, if I can focus, you can see that there's a little border around this whole thing, and right there, that's because that's the actual screen under the display. But yeah, the reason why I picked up this 9th generation iPad was mainly because I knew they were going to stop selling these very soon, and I figured get it around Black Friday, be the best time to do it. And yeah, this is really cool because mainly I got it silver because I wanted it to be, you know, similar to the 1st gen. I want to have a decade of like an evolution of iPad, you know, same color, same everything, if possible. But yeah, this is what we're all used to right now, you know. This is all what we're used to now, this really thin iPad, you know. nothing really to it. Pretty similar though, you know, as far as back. This has a black Apple logo. This one has a shiny chrome silver Apple logo. Do have a rear facing camera. I'm not sure if it's, I think it's a 12 megapixel camera. Don't hold me to that. Of course, we've changed the buttons to aluminum, which is a lot better quality. You can just tell any device that Apple's ever released has felt really premium. Every single device, whether even the iPhone 5C, that with considering it being a plastic phone, it still felt like a premium device. But yeah, that's a little bit better of a view. You can just see how much more. This is kind of what we resorted to. You can clearly see how much thicker this one is and how the rounded top over here. But this is kind of what we've resorted to on our newer iPads. If you can see, look, here's my iPad 4th generation, the iPad Air 4th generation. And it has that kind of rounded, thick, chunky look like the iPhone 4 that we all loved. I love this design, and I'm glad they returned it because, you know, this felt like a really premium device. It was a very strong device. It was very hard to damage or break, and it was all steel, is what I think I remember them. Or they used premium aluminum or something, but you could pretty much see here. My camera's focusing. It's having trouble focusing for whatever reason, but pretty much the same thickness. They just removed this big old rounded beveled edge. This might be a little thinner, not by much, or thicker, but this is what we've resorted to now. And again, I got it silver to have an evolution. I do have a 4th generation iPad Air, which is this one, and then I have the iPad Air 1st generation. So yeah, this is what there's the smart connector right there. This is my iPad that like I said, I use as my daily driver. This one is my secondary. Mainly because these iPads don't come with enough storage, so you need more than one. And that's on top of having iCloud Plus. So this one's a 16 gigabyte, if you haven't seen already. So yeah, definitely hope, you know, Apple would return back to the original iPad things like this. You know, I hope they keep this design. I think it's a really cool design, you know, opposed to this rounded design. I like this design too, but just mainly because it's real thin and it just more ergonomical. But yeah, opposed to that, definitely a difference. This one's way heavier opposed to this one for obvious reasons. Yet when I've seen them take apart these iPads, there's really not a whole lot in them. There's a lot of wasted space. And then when they resorted to the 2nd gen iPad 2, it was a lot thinner. Bezels were decreased, I think. But the only disadvantage is I don't have them running the original operating system. But yeah, this one more comfortable to hold in the hand. It's a lot thinner, lighter, easier, you know. You can just see how much better I can hold it like that, opposed to this big, heavy beast. You know, it's not as bad, but you could just see how much heavier it is. The way I have to grip it, you know, it's pretty heavy and kind of awkward to grip. This one's a lot easier because, you know, it's basically like picking up a piece of cardboard or something, you know, pretty light and easy. So anyway, yeah, this is just a quick little comparison of these two. I don't really want to update this operating system on here, mainly for, you know, being more of a collectible item than anything. If I can get this one to flip too. But even see, with the old iOS, you used to get so many more wallpapers. And yeah, they weren't the greatest, but we all know they were these super classic wallpapers right here. If anyone remembers any of those, very cool, very nostalgic. These ones are nothing great either. They're worse, in fact. Basically, we have that. have these kind of weird looking ones, kind of cool, but don't really make sense. And then you have all these rainbow ones. So yeah, we do have a lot more settings than the original iPad. As you can see, that was before Siri came. There's Siri there. Before Touch ID, before Passcode was still there. Before the modern iCloud. You know, tons and tons of things, options and apps. Here you really didn't get that option you just got the default app settings instead of having like all these different ones that you've downloaded to have settings to. But yeah, that's pretty much it with this iPad. You know, I'm glad they brought widgets to the home screen, but at the same time, I hate having these big old gaps on the side of my home screen, because here it's not like that. It's at least, you know, pretty equal, even on each row. But here they don't really give you an option to change it. So one disadvantage about that. But anyway, yeah, just a quick little review on these two iPads. So feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share. I'll do another comparison between the first generation and the second generation, as well as the first and fourth generation of the iPad Air. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.